The streets of the alien city were loud and full of light, but to her, they were only cold and empty. The girl had no name that anyone remembered. She was human, one of the few left wandering in this strange place, forgotten by both her kind and theirs. Her clothes were torn, her stomach was empty, and her eyes carried the tired look of someone who had not known kindness for a long time. She walked with her head down, careful not to meet anyone's gaze, because every time she did, she saw only disgust or pity. She stopped near a corner where bright alien ships landed and took off. Diplomats, traders, and soldiers from across the galaxy walked there in fine robes and polished armor. They moved quickly, talking in strange voices, their eyes glowing with power and pride. She stayed near the shadows, too afraid to step closer. Her whole world was scraps of food, scraps of warmth, scraps of hope. Then, something caught her eye. Just a few feet ahead, on the shining ground of the plaza, a wallet lay forgotten. It was unlike anything she had ever seen. Smooth, metallic, glowing faintly with strange lines of light. She looked around. The crowd was busy. No one seemed to notice. Her heart began to race. Slowly, she reached out, her dirty fingers trembling as they touched the object. When she opened it, her breath stopped. Inside, she saw alien credit chips, glowing blue and stacked neatly. To her, it was more money than she could ever dream of. Enough to buy food for months, maybe even a place to sleep that was not the cold floor of an alley. For a moment, her chest tightened with hope. Was this her chance? The universe had been cruel, but maybe, just maybe, it had dropped this gift in her path. But then, a thought struck her. This was not hers. Someone had lost it, someone important. She remembered how cruel the galaxy could be if you were caught stealing, even by accident. She remembered the beatings, the punishments, yet she could also feel the hunger tearing her from inside. She closed her eyes tightly, fighting the war inside her. Finally, she whispered to herself, "It is not mine." She clutched the wallet close to her chest and stood up. She scanned the plaza with sharp eyes, trying to find who had dropped it. That's when she saw him. A tall figure walked ahead, surrounded by guards in silver armor. His robe shimmered with colors that changed as he moved, and his face was sharp, proud, and unreadable. Everyone around him stepped aside, bowing slightly. He was no ordinary traveler. He was a diplomat, one of those who carried power enough to change entire worlds. And at his side, a small chain hung loose, the hook empty where the wallet should have been. Her legs trembled. That was his wallet. The girl felt fear crawl into her chest. How could she approach him? He was far above her world, a star shining too brightly. If she stepped forward, the guards might strike her down before she even spoke. But still, she walked. Step by step, dragging her courage from the ashes of her broken life. When she reached the edge of the crowd, one of the guards noticed her. His hand went to his weapon instantly. "Stay back," he growled, in a language she only half understood. The people around her backed away, staring at the ragged human girl daring to go near a man of such power. She raised her shaking hand. "Please," she whispered. The guard moved closer, ready to push her away. But before he could, the diplomat himself turned. His piercing eyes landed on her. For a heartbeat, the plaza grew silent. The girl felt small under his gaze, smaller than she had ever felt before. Her throat was dry, her hands cold. But she forced her arm forward, holding out the glowing wallet. Her voice cracked as she said, "You dropped this." The diplomat's eyes narrowed. He stared at her as though searching her soul. Slowly, he reached out, taking the wallet from her trembling hands. His fingers brushed against her skin, and she flinched. The guards leaned forward, their faces filled with suspicion. The crowd whispered, "Why would a human beggar return something so valuable? Was it a trick? Was she a thief pretending to be honest? The diplomat opened the wallet. Everything inside was untouched. Not a single credit chip missing. His eyes lifted again to the girl. She lowered her gaze, waiting for his judgment. And then, in a voice deep and commanding, he asked, "Where did you get this?" Her breath caught in her chest. His tone was not gentle. It was sharp, filled with suspicion. She wanted to explain, to say she only found it. But her voice was trapped in fear. Behind them, unseen in the crowd, a shadowy figure watched. He tapped his device and whispered, "The girl has the wallet. Mark her. She is the one." The girl stood frozen, her heart pounding, unaware that her simple act of honesty had just pulled her into a storm that would shake the galaxy. The diplomat's eyes did not leave her face. He stood tall, his shadow falling over her as the guards closed in. The crowd around them grew restless, whispering, pointing, waiting for what would happen. To them, she was only a filthy human beggar. She had no right to be here, no right to even speak to someone so powerful. The guards' weapons glowed faintly. One stepped forward, his voice sharp. She could be a thief, or worse, an assassin. His hand moved toward her arm. The girl flinched back, fear shaking her small body. But the diplomat lifted his hand. At once, the guards froze. His eyes remained on her, calm yet searching. He opened the wallet again, looking carefully at the contents, then back at her. The credits were all there, nothing missing. He tapped the side of the wallet, and it lit up, projecting a faint image. It showed the moment it had slipped from his robe. He frowned. "You had the chance to steal," he said slowly, his voice carrying across the plaza. "But you did not." The girl lowered her eyes. Her lips trembled, but she managed to whisper, "It was not mine." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Some laughed, others scoffed. To them, her words were foolish. Why return wealth that could have saved her life? Why give back a treasure to someone who already had everything? The diplomat's expression did not change, but his gaze grew sharper. He leaned slightly closer, studying her as though she were a puzzle. "Who taught you such honesty?" he asked. She shook her head. "No one," she said softly. "It is just what is right." Before he could speak again, one of the guards snapped, his voice full of contempt. "She lies. Humans lie to survive. She must have taken it, then thought she would be caught. So now she pretends to be honest." The girl's chest tightened. She wanted to shout that it wasn't true, but her throat locked. The memory of past punishments flashed in her mind, the time she had been accused without proof. The time she had been beaten simply because she was human. She stepped back, her body trembling. The diplomat raised his hand again, silencing the guard. His eyes never left the girl. There was something in her face, in her voice, that unsettled him. Something rare. He had traveled across worlds, dealt with liars, thieves, and rulers hungry for power. Yet this frail human child looked at him with eyes clear of greed. Still, suspicion lingered. He asked, "Do you know what this wallet holds?" The girl hesitated, then nodded. "Credits. Enough to change my life. And yet you returned it." The diplomat's gaze deepened. For a moment, silence stretched between them. Then, softly, he said, "Strange. Very strange." But outside the circle of guards, danger was stirring. Hidden in the crowd, the shadowy figure from before pressed his device again. His voice was low and urgent. "The diplomat has noticed her. This is bad. If he keeps her, everything will change." Another voice answered through the device, cold and sharp. "Then she must not leave the plaza alive. Do you understand?" The figure's eyes narrowed. Understood. Back at the center of the plaza, the girl lowered her head, thinking it was over. But the diplomat surprised her. He looked at his guards and said, "Bring her with us." The crowd gasped. The guards exchanged shocked glances. One protested, "But my lord, she is nothing." "A stray, you cannot." The diplomat's eyes flashed, silencing him. "Did you not see," she returned, "what none of you would have? She is not nothing. She is proof that honesty still lives." The girl's heart raced. She had not expected this. She only wanted to return the wallet and vanish again into the shadows. Now, suddenly, she was being pulled into a world she did not belong to. The guards surrounded her, their faces full of suspicion and contempt. To them, she was a burden, a risk. They would watch her closely, ready to strike at the first sign of betrayal. She felt their eyes burning into her back as they walked. She dared to glance up at the diplomat. His face remained calm, unreadable. But deep inside, his thoughts were heavy. Why had she caught his attention so strongly? Why did this small act of honesty feel so important? He could not yet see the full picture, but he sensed that this girl was more than she appeared. As they moved toward the grand embassy at the heart of the city, the shadowy figure followed at a distance. His eyes glowed faintly as he tracked them. The cum device crackled again in his hand. "Do not fail," the voice whispered. "Before the sun sets, the girl must disappear." The figure smiled grimly. "She will." The girl walking under. The heavy gaze of armored guards felt the ground beneath her grow heavier with every step. She had no idea why the diplomat had spared her, why he had chosen to protect her instead of punishing her. But in her chest, a cold fear grew. She knew the galaxy never gave gifts without a price, and somewhere behind her, fate was already moving its pieces. The great embassy towered above the city like a mountain of glass and steel. Its gates were guarded by tall soldiers in silver armor, their eyes glowing under their helmets. Few dared to enter, and none without permission. Yet that day, a ragged human girl walked through those gates. Surrounded by the diplomat's guards, she could feel every stare on her. Servants paused. Merchants stopped their wagons. Even passing citizens turned their heads. A homeless girl, barefoot and filthy, entering the home of power. It was unthinkable. Whispers filled the air as they climbed the long, shining steps. The girl's heart raced. She wanted to run, to escape, to vanish back into the safety of the shadows. But the guard's hands were close, ready to hold her if she moved. The diplomat walked ahead, silent and calm, as though nothing unusual was happening. His robe shimmered with light, and his presence alone kept the crowd silent. Inside the embassy was like another world. Golden walls glowed with soft light. Strange flowers floated in glass jars, their petals opening and closing like living jewels. Tall windows revealed the endless stars above. She stopped at the sight, her eyes wide. Never had she seen such beauty. Never had she dreamed such places even existed. "Move," one guard growled, pushing her forward. She stumbled, nearly falling, but the diplomat lifted a hand. "Do not harm her," he commanded. The guard froze, bowing his head. The diplomat looked back at her. His face was unreadable, but his voice was calm. "You will eat," he said, "and you will rest. Tonight, you are safe here." The word struck her harder than any weapon. Safe. No one had ever spoken that word to her. She wanted to believe him, but fear whispered inside her. Safety was a lie. Safety never lasted. They entered a grand hall filled with long tables. Plates of food glimmered under bright, light-steaming bread, roasted meats, shining fruits from alien worlds. The smell wrapped around her, making her dizzy. She had not eaten a real meal in days. The diplomat motioned to a servant. "Bring her food," he said. The servant hesitated, his eyes flicking to the girl with disgust. "But, my lord, She is the diplomat's eyes, hardened. Do as I say. At once, the servant bowed and hurried away. Moments later, a plate was placed before her. She stared at it, her hands trembling. The bread was warm. The fruit glowed softly. She picked up a piece and bit into it. Tears filled her eyes as the taste filled her mouth. It was too much, too rich, too good for someone like her. She swallowed hard, afraid it would all vanish if she blinked. The diplomat sat across from her, watching silently. His guards stood at the walls, their faces tight with suspicion. To them, she was still nothing but a risk. Finally, he spoke. You returned what was mine. You could have kept it. Do you know what that means? She lowered her gaze. It means, I was a fool. But the diplomat shook his head. No, it means you are different. In this galaxy, power blinds. Greed consumes. Yet you had nothing, and still you gave back everything. That is rare. She did not understand why he cared. She only knew her stomach was full for the first time in years, and she could hardly lift her eyes to meet his. The hall grew quiet. The diplomat leaned forward, his voice lowering. Your choice today was not small. You think you only returned a wallet? But I tell you, the galaxy will change because of it. Her eyes widened. How? I am no one. He looked at her with eyes sharp as steel. You are not no one. You are proof. Proof that honesty survives. Proof that hope survives. And for that, you will be watched. The girl shivered. His words were heavy, almost frightening. She wanted to ask what he meant, but suddenly the sound of footsteps echoed from the entrance. A messenger ran in, pale and breathless. He bowed quickly. My lord, the messenger said, there is danger. The streets are not safe tonight. Enemies move in the shadows. The diplomat's eyes flicked toward the girl, then back to the messenger. I know, he said quietly. The guards stiffened. The girl's heart sank. She realized it. She was not safe. Not truly. The enemy was already coming. The diplomat rose from his seat, his robe shimmering like fire. He looked down at her, his voice calm but final. You will stay here tonight. You will not leave. Do you understand? She nodded weakly, though her chest tightened with fear. The diplomat turned to his guards. Protect her. At all costs. The guards looked stunned. Protect her. But my lord, do it. The diplomat snapped. The room fell silent. The girl stared at him, her heart thundering. Why was he protecting her? Why did he speak as though she mattered? She was only a homeless human girl, but outside the embassy walls, in the dark alleys of the city, assassins were preparing their weapons. Blades sharpened, guns loaded. Their leader whispered coldly, the girl must not live through the night. And inside, as she lay down in a soft bed for the first time in her life, she had no idea that the shadows were already moving closer. The night fell heavy over the alien city. The stars outside the tall embassy windows glowed like cold fire. And the streets below were quieter than usual, as though the city itself was holding its breath. Inside, the girl lay in a bed softer than anything she had ever touched, but her body would not rest. Her eyes stared into the darkness, her mind racing with questions. Why had the diplomat brought her here? Why did he look at her as though she was more than just a stray? And why did he command his guards to protect her as if her life mattered to the galaxy? She wanted to believe she was safe, but deep inside, her fear whispered that shadows always followed her, no matter where she went. She was right. Outside the embassy walls, in the narrow alleys, assassins moved like shadows made of flesh. Their armor was dark, their weapons silent. They had been paid in gold and secrets to do one task: end the girl's life before dawn. Their leader raised a gloved hand, and the killers spread into position. Some scaled the walls like insects, their claws digging into steel. Others moved through the sewers beneath, ready to strike from below. A final group carried explosives, planting them near the outer gates. The embassy, a place of pride and diplomacy, was about to become a battlefield. Inside, Diplomat stood on the balcony of his private chamber, staring out at the city lights. His eyes were calm, but his heart carried a weight he did not show. He sensed the danger creeping closer. His instincts, sharpened by years of betrayal and politics, told him tonight would not pass quietly. He turned to the guard standing near his door. "Double the watch," he ordered, "and keep her close. She must not be harmed." Down the hall, the girl finally drifted into a restless sleep, her small frame curled under the warm blankets. She dreamed of her old life, of hunger, of wandering streets that never cared if she lived or died. But the dream shattered when a sudden tremor shook the floor. Her eyes flew open. From far away, she heard shouts, the blare of alarms, and the thunder of something exploding. The embassy was under attack. The walls shook again, and the door to her room burst open. A guard rushed in, his face pale. "Stay behind me," he barked, drawing his weapon. The girl froze, fear paralyzing her limbs. Smoke drifted into the room, and distant screams echoed through the hallways. The guard pulled her forward, half dragging her as more soldiers ran past. Red lights flashed along the ceiling, and the sound of clashing metal grew louder. The embassy gates had already fallen. Explosions tore through the outer defenses, and assassins stormed inside like a flood. They moved with terrifying speed, blades slicing, guns firing with deadly precision. Diplomats and servants scattered in panic, some cut down before they could even cry for help. The grand halls, once filled with light and peace, became a place of chaos and blood. The girl stumbled into the central hall, clutching the guard's arm, her chest heaving with terror. She saw soldiers fighting desperately, heard the screams of the dying, smelled the burning air. Her heart pounded so hard it felt like it would tear from her chest. She wanted to run, to hide, but there was nowhere to go. Then she saw him, the diplomat. He stood at the center of the hall, calm and unshaken, his robe torn slightly, but his eyes blazing with authority. His guards formed a circle around him, fighting to the last breath. When his gaze found her, something fierce lit inside him. He strode forward, blocking her with his own body. "Stay down," he ordered, his voice cutting through the chaos. A flash of steel caught her eye. From the smoke, a masked assassin appeared, moving faster than her eyes could follow. His blade gleamed as it swung straight toward her. She cried out, but before it could strike, the diplomat stepped in front of her, his arm raised. The blade tore across his sleeve, leaving a thin line of blood, but he did not fall. He grabbed the assassin's wrist with iron strength and shoved him back. The girl stared in shock. Why? Why would he protect her? He was a man of power, a voice in the galaxy. She was nothing. And yet he stood between her and death as though her life mattered more than his. The assassin hissed through his mask, raising his weapon again. More shadows spilled into the hall, surrounding them. The girl's guard fell, struck down by a blast, and she screamed, stumbling to the floor. The diplomat pulled her behind him, his voice low and steady. "Do not fear," he whispered. "They are not here for me. They are here. For you?" Her blood froze. The words crashed into her mind. For her? Why? She was no one. How could assassins cross the galaxy to end the life of a homeless girl? She shook her head violently, tears in her eyes, but the truth burned in the diplomat's gaze. He knew something she did not. Before she could ask, before she could even breathe, The masked assassin leaped again, this time faster, stronger, his blade aimed straight at her heart. The guards were too far. The diplomat was still bleeding. The girl's scream tore through the hall as the assassin closed in. And then everything stopped. The masked figure froze mid-strike, his blade inches from her chest. The girl's breath came in sharp gasps, her eyes wide with terror. Slowly, the assassin lowered the weapon, then did something no one expected. He knelt before her. His voice, muffled behind the mask, trembled with something like respect. "Forgive me, daughter of Earth," he said. The hall fell silent. Even the fighting seemed to pause. The girl's world spun, her mind unable to grasp his words. Daughter of Earth. What did that mean? The diplomat's eyes narrowed. He had suspected, but now the truth was beginning to unfold. The attack was not random. It was not about him. It was about her. And for the first time in her life, the girl realized she was not just a nobody lost in the galaxy. She was something more. Something dangerous. Something worth killing for. The grand hall of the embassy was filled with smoke and silence. Bodies of guards and assassins lay scattered across the shining floor, the air thick with the smell of fire and blood. But in that moment, none of it mattered. The girl stared at the kneeling assassin, her heart hammering so loudly she could hear nothing else. His blade was still in his hand, but it no longer pointed at her. His voice, muffled through the mask, echoed in her ears. "Forgive me, daughter of Earth." Her lips parted, but no sound came out. Daughter of Earth. The words made no sense. She was no one. She was a beggar, a stray who had lived in shadows her whole life. She shook her head, whispering weakly, "You are wrong. I am nobody." The assassin lowered his weapon completely, then removed his mask. His face was scarred, his eyes sharp, yet filled with something close to sorrow. "No," he said firmly. "You are the last blood of the treaty. The galaxy has hunted you because of what you are." Her chest tightened. Treaty, hunted. She turned to the diplomat, searching his face for denial, for answers. But his eyes told her the truth he already knew. The diplomat stepped forward, his robe torn, blood still dripping from his arm. His voice was calm but heavy. "I suspected," he said. "From the moment I saw you, I knew. The way you returned the wallet, the way you carried honesty when all others carried greed. It was not only choice, it was bloodline." She shook her head violently. "No, no, you are wrong. I was born in the streets. My family had nothing. I am nothing." The assassin bowed lower. "Your family had everything. Long ago, when humans were still many among the stars, they made a treaty with the alien empires. That treaty gave humans a place in the galaxy, a voice in the council. But greed and fear destroyed it. The powerful killed those who signed it. Families were erased. Your family was one of them." Tears burned her eyes. She stumbled back, her breath shallow. Memories flickered in her mind, her mother's gentle face, her father's strong arms, but they were faint, broken, like shards of glass. She remembered hiding as a child, hearing screams, running through smoke. She had buried those memories deep, telling herself they were only nightmares. Now they returned like fire. The diplomat spoke again, his tone steady but sharp. "They thought your bloodline was gone. But you lived, hidden, forgotten, and now they fear what you could bring back." The girl pressed her hands to her ears as if she could block the words. "No, I am just a beggar, just a girl." The assassin lifted his head, his eyes burning with conviction. "You are more than a girl. You are the key. If you stand, the treaty rises again. And if the treaty rises, the balance of power will shatter. That is why they hunt you. That is why you must die. or lead. The hall shook with another explosion. More assassins poured in through broken windows, but the guards fought them back. The diplomat drew his weapon, a blade of light, and slashed down two attackers. He turned to her quickly, his voice urgent. "Listen to me. You cannot run from this. You cannot hide forever. Your blood carries power greater than you understand. And whether you want it or not, the galaxy will chase you." She fell to her knees, tears spilling down her face. Her hands trembled as she clutched the edge of her torn dress. "I never asked for this. I never wanted this." The diplomat knelt beside her, his eyes sharp yet kind. "No one chooses destiny. But destiny chooses. And tonight, it chose you." The assassin, still kneeling, placed his blade on the floor and pushed it toward her. "Take it. If you live, you must decide. Will you fight for what was lost? Or will you let the galaxy stay broken?" Her fingers shook as she reached for the weapon. The handle was cold, heavy, unfamiliar. She could barely lift it, but the moment her hand closed around it, something stirred in her chest. Not power, not strength, something else. A memory of her parents' voices, soft and full of hope. The diplomat placed his hand on her shoulder. "The galaxy believes humans are finished, that their hope is gone. But you are proof it survives. And soon, all will know." The assassins retreated into the shadows, their leader bowing once more before vanishing. The battle ended as quickly as it began, leaving silence heavy in the broken hall. The girl sat frozen, the blade still in her trembling hands. She looked at the diplomat, her voice raw and broken. "Why me?" His answer was simple, but it carried the weight of 1,000 worlds. "Because the galaxy will rise or fall. Because of you." Her tears fell harder, but deep inside, something shifted. She was still afraid, still lost, but now she carried a secret no one could take from her. She was not just a beggar, not just a forgotten human. She was the last thread of a promise broken long ago, and as the fires burned around the embassy, she understood one thing. Clearly, her life would never be the same again. Asterisk. The fires of the embassy still burned through the night. Smoke curled toward the stars, and the city outside whispered with fear. Everyone knew the embassy had been attacked, but no one knew why. Rumors spread like wind. Some said it was war. Some said it was betrayal. Only those inside knew the truth. It was because of her. The girl sat in a silent chamber deep inside the embassy. The walls glowed faintly with light, but she felt only darkness pressing on her. The blade given to her by the assassin lay across her knees. Her hand still shook whenever she touched it. She stared at her reflection in the steel. The face that looked back was not a warrior's face. Not a leader's face was the face of a frightened child, who wanted nothing more than to vanish into the shadows again. Her mind screamed with questions. Why her? Why now? She wanted to believe she could still run, escape, disappear into the alleys of some forgotten world. But a part of her knew it was already too late. The galaxy had seen her. The galaxy had spoken her name in whispers. And now there was no going back. The diplomat entered quietly. His robe was stained with blood, his arm wrapped in a fresh bandage. Yet his steps were steady, his eyes sharp. He stopped in front of her, his gaze falling on the blade she held. "You have not slept," he said. She shook her head. "How can I?" "Everything you said." "Everything he said." Her voice broke. "I am not who you think. I cannot be this. This daughter of Earth, I cannot lead anything." The diplomat studied her for a long moment. Then he sat across from her, his voice low. "Do you know what fear is?" She looked up at him, confused. "Fear," he continued, "is not weakness. Fear is the proof you understand the weight of choice. The weak pretend they feel nothing. The strong feel fear and still walk forward. Her chest tightened. But I have nothing. No power. No army. I am only a girl. His eyes did not waver. You have more than any army. You have honesty. You have hope. And sometimes that is enough to move galaxies. Tears welled in her eyes. She whispered, I do not want this destiny. He leaned forward. No one ever does. But destiny is not a choice. What you do with it, that is the choice. The silence stretched between them. Outside the chamber, the city was restless. News of the attack had spread. Rumors of the girl were already crawling through back alleys and across stars. Some would see her as hope. Others would see her as danger, and all would come for her. Finally, the diplomat stood. His voice carried the weight of command. You have two paths. Hide, and they will hunt you until the end of your days. Or stand and make them fear you instead. Her heart pounded. Hide or stand. Both paths were heavy, both filled with pain. But she thought of the nights she had slept cold and hungry. She thought of the cruelty of those who had stepped over her body as if she were nothing. She thought of all the others, like her humans, scattered, forgotten, living in shadows. If she ran now, she would be leaving them in darkness forever. Her fingers closed around the blade. Slowly, she lifted it, though her hands trembled. If I fight, I do not fight for myself. I fight for them, for all who are forgotten. The diplomat's eyes softened for the first time. A small smile touched his lips. Then the galaxy will never forget your name. At that moment, heavy footsteps echoed outside the chamber. A guard rushed in, his face pale. My lord, he said breathlessly. Enemy warships move above the city. They prepare for attack. The girl froze. Warships. She had never even seen one up close, and now they came because of her. Her stomach twisted with fear. But when she looked at the diplomat, his eyes were steady, waiting. She tightened her grip on the blade. She still shook, still feared, but for the first time she stood tall. I will not hide, she whispered. Not anymore. The diplomat bowed his head slightly as though honoring her. Then you have made your choice. And tonight, the galaxy changes. Outside, the night sky lit with fire as enemy ships descended. Citizens screamed and scattered. The city trembled under the shadow of war, and in the heart of the embassy, a homeless human girl, once forgotten, once broken, stood ready to face it. She did not know what would come, or if she would even live to see another sunrise. But she knew one thing. The galaxy had tried to erase her. But now it would hear her voice, and her choice would echo across the stars. The galaxy had seen many wars, many treaties, and many rulers rise and fall. But it had never seen this. The great chamber of the Galactic Council stretched like a cathedral of stars. Thousands of voices filled the Halalian leaders from every empire. Their robes glowing, their banners shining, their faces stern and proud. Floating screens broadcast the event across every world. Billions of eyes watched from ships, cities, and distant colonies. They waited to see the reason for all the chaos. They waited to see her. The girl stood at the center of the hall. Her body trembled beneath the weight of 1,000 stares. She wore a simple robe, clean but plain. And in her hands she carried the diplomat's wallet, the very object that had pulled her from the shadows. The blade rested at her side, hidden but heavy. A reminder of the truth she could no longer escape. Her heart pounded so hard she thought she might faint. She wanted to run, to hide, to vanish as she had always done. But she remembered the choice she had made. No more hiding. No more silence. Tonight, she would speak. The council leader, a tall alien with skin like stone and eyes like burning gold, raised his hand. You are the human girl, he said, his voice carrying through the hall. The one who caused the attack. The one they call Daughter of Earth. Why should we listen to you? The girl's throat was dry. For a moment, her voice would not come. She looked around at the sea of alien faces. Some glared with hatred, some with curiosity, some with fear. Then her gaze found the diplomat. He stood at the edge of the chamber, his eyes steady, filled with quiet strength. She remembered his words. Fear is not weakness. Fear is proof. She lifted the wallet high, her voice shaking but clear. This is where it began, she said. A simple wallet. A stranger dropped it. I had nothing, not even food for the day. Inside was enough to change my life. But I gave it back. The hall rippled with murmurs. Some laughed, others scoffed, but she pressed on. I was homeless, forgotten. To you, I was nothing. But I returned it because it was not mine. And for that, assassins came to kill me. Armies moved against me. Warships filled the sky. Her voice grew stronger, louder, all because I chose honesty. The murmurs grew louder. Some leaned forward, some shook their heads. The council leader frowned. And why should that matter to us? Her eyes burned with tears, but she did not look away. Because it proves something you have forgotten. Power is not everything. Greed is not everything. Kindness still survives. Honesty still survives. And if a girl with nothing can return what is not hers, then maybe the galaxy still has hope. The hall fell silent. Every word echoed through the chamber, carried by the screens to billions watching across the stars. She lowered the wallet, holding it close to her chest. I am no one special. I did not ask for this. But I am human. And humans were part of this galaxy once. We were erased, forgotten, hunted. But we are not gone. I am still here. And if I am here, then our hope is not dead. The silence stretched, deep and heavy. Then, slowly, a sound rose. One hand clapped. Another followed. And then another. Soon, the chamber thundered with applause. The screens showed alien citizens across worlds standing, cheering, raising their hands. They did not see a beggar anymore. They saw a survivor. They saw a spark of hope. The council leader raised his hand again, but his eyes were different, now less proud, more thoughtful. The galaxy never expected this, he said softly. A homeless human girl, standing in this chamber, shaking empires with only her words. Truly. The galaxy never expected your reaction. The diplomat stepped forward, his voice strong. Let it be known. The Daughter of Earth has returned, and with her, a new chapter begins. The girl's knees trembled, her chest heavy with emotion. She had no crown, no throne, no army. Yet the galaxy was listening. For the first time, it listened to her. She lifted the wallet once more, her voice steady now. I returned what was not mine. And tonight, I returned something greater. I return hope to a galaxy that forgot it. The chamber erupted again, the sound echoing through the stars. And so it was that a nameless beggar, a girl once lost in the shadows of a city, became the voice that shook empires. The galaxy never expected her. But now, it would never forget her.